There were 6 Democrat chairs when I came in. I reduced it to 1, who was the dean of the Senate, but I had a majority of Republicans on the committee, so he didn't have the authority to pass any bill out of committee. We had the votes to pass any bill we wanted, but it was out of respect to the dean of the Senate. So 1 without any power in that position. In the House, I think the first session for Dade Phelan, he had 23 Democrat chairs, including education.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, and thank you for all your work in these primaries. We have Tuesday to go. I'm a little concerned on the turnout. I want to encourage everyone to vote. The polls all look in our favor, but the polls don't mean anything if the people who are supporting the candidates that I think we're pretty together on most of these candidates that we want to win if the people don't show up to vote. So we need to get the vote out today and Tuesday for sure.
Yep. I want to ask you real quick about something that you talked about when you were talking to the delegates. You talked about how when coming into the Senate, one of the key changes you made was that you stopped giving the Democrats voluntary power, right? And that is a distinction between the way you've run the Senate and they've decided to run the Texas House. Can you just break that down in a few minutes?
So here's the deal. When you're the majority party, if you don't set the rules up to give you the benefit of being the majority party, and you allow the minority party to be able to block you on everything the voters expect you to do, then you have failed in your job. So in the Senate, not to be complicated, there used to be a rule called the 21 vote rule. It took 21 votes in order. So if you were a senator and you had a bill, it only took 16 votes, simple majority out of 31, to pass it. But you had to have 2/3 to be able to bring it up for a vote. So the rule in the Senate was you had to have 21 votes. We've never had more than 20 Republican senators, and now we have 19. And so the Democrats, when I was in the Senate, if we had a pro-life bill, a pro-gun bill, any pro-conservative bill, they just killed it, or they watered it down so it didn't mean anything. So one of the platforms I ran on as lieutenant governor in 14, and I'd been fighting as a senator to change the rules, and I could never get the votes, but when you're lieutenant governor, you have a little bit more persuasion authority, is to change it to 19. We had 19 Republicans. That meant the Democrats couldn't block anything that we did. And that's the reason that we continue to pass out pretty much every legislative priority that the voters have asked us to pass. Over in the House, it's the opposite. Dade Phelan and speakers before have put Democrats in key places. The other thing I did, there were 6 Democrat chairs when I came in. I reduced it to 1, who was the dean of the Senate, but I had a majority of Republicans on the committee, so he didn't have the authority to pass any bill out of committee. We had the votes to pass any bill we wanted, but it was out of respect to the dean of the Senate, so 1 without any power in that position. In the House, I think the first session for Dade Phelan, he had 23 Democrat chairs, including education, including criminal justice. Big committees. Why would you do that when you have the majority with 80-some Republicans and 60-some Democrats, put those Democrats in a powerful position? So he reduced it to 8, I think, or 9 this session, but all in powerful positions. So you can't, Jonathan, in the House, continue the way they're doing, letting Democrats run the show. And so what happens in the House is they will pass bills with 100% of the Democrats and like 1 out of 4 Republicans. Casinos is a great example. So the casino bill was 3 votes short of passing out of the House. But if you look at the vote, it was all Democrats and 28 out of 84 Republicans voted for it. That's the real story. That would never happen in the Senate. I do not pass bills out of the Senate with 12 Democrats and 6 Republicans.
You've talked about the Hastert rule, and y'all have some kind of rule like that in the Senate. Why don't you explain to people what majority of the majority rule even looks like within a governing body? And I know you've talked about that in the House too. So kind of how you as the Republican caucus in the Senate work.
Yeah. So in the Senate Republican caucus, if I have 15 or 16 out of my 19 senators, or maybe 17 depending on the bill, if I have that many Republicans, that means 2 things. They support the bill and their constituents support the bill. Otherwise, they wouldn't. So I'm not going to let 2 or 3 Republicans kill a bill that 16 or 17 want. But I'm not going to pass a bill that 2 or 3 Republicans want and 16 don't. So again, and all my senators understand, if you're going to bring a bill up, you need to have 15 or 16, 17 members with you. And then I'm not going to stand in the way. I think since I've been lieutenant governor, I've only blocked 3 bills out of, 6,000, where there were 16 or 17 Republicans who wanted the bill. And I can't remember what they were, but those were bills where I didn't think it was the right bill or the right timing. But I let the senators run the show, but they know they have to have the votes to do it. And that's the reason. I mean, every priority, every platform priority, 98% of the time, we're going to pass it because it's what the people want us to do. And so my job, look, I give all the credit to the senators. They do all the hard work, all the committee work, the hours and hours. I read the bills, my staff reads the bills, we know where we are. My job is to lead them to do what the people have asked us. In the House, you have a lot of good conservative Republicans that can't do that because their bills never get heard because the Democrats block them.
Hey there, folks. Chris Salcedo here, and I've got something special for you. It's the Salcedo Storm Podcast, your go-to source for the things happening in the national, state, and cultural news that impact you and your family. As your liberty-loving Latino, I bring you a mix of engaging discussions to help us fight for our state and our conservative values. It's the perfect way to stay informed and engaged in what's happening around you. Whether you're a seasoned news junkie or just looking to expand your knowledge, there's something for everybody on the Salcedo Storm Podcast. So, what are you waiting for? Don't miss out on the storm of information and entertainment coming your way. The Salcedo Storm Podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
We're at the largest political gathering in the country, right? And some people in Texas will say that the party is at odds with the elected officials in the party. And, when it comes to Dade Phelan and his lieutenants, that has definitely been true. From your perspective with the Senate as a lieutenant governor, what has your relationship been like with the party over the last several years, the grassroots that are here?
So I won my last election, my third one, by 800,000 votes. I did a 133 city bus tour because I love people. That's why I'm here. I've never missed a convention. I give a speech at every convention. I've been to every caucus, every delegation. There's 19 delegations here. I go to every one. Number one, to thank the people who are here. They spend their money to come here. They're paying for their hotel rooms and their food. I bought 700 of them ice cream last night, which was fun. Took 700 photographs with folks. But I'm here out of respect to them. They're here. And the great thing, Luke, is I ask every delegation, how many here are first-timers? It's 50% at least or
Yes,
more.
You're correct.
And so it's important for people to come and learn the process. I joke, how much have you learned? They raise their hand. How much are you confused? They raise their hand. It's important. I come here to respect them. Plus, I have fun. I have a good time. So I love it. So I've never missed a convention since I've been elected, and I just enjoy it.
So when people talk about, the party and the delegates, they're at odds with the elected officials, I feel like this is a mainstream legacy media narrative that just doesn't end up being true when you actually come here and see the conservative officials working hand in hand with the grassroots.
Well, this idea that we don't work together, let's go back to this. There's a purpose for primaries, and that's for people to run. And anyone can run who wants to run. Look, people don't remember, I had 5 opponents against me when I ran for lieutenant governor last time. Now, we won handily, but I had 5 opponents. That's their right to run. Governor Abbott, I think, had 9 opponents the last time. That's their right to run. And I don't want us ever to be in a situation where the party's telling people who can run. That's up to the voters. And that's up to anybody who wants to run for office. Look, it's an honor to run for office. Some people run and they don't have a chance to win because it takes money, or there's not a pathway, or they're not well known. But you know what? If there's something they believe in, that they think it's important, and they want to go to the forums and the town halls and do that, they have a right to do that. And I welcome that. I was one of those guys. When I ran for the Senate against 2 House chairmen and a city councilman back in 2006, everyone said, Dan can't win. He's just a radio talk show host and a TV anchor. He can't win. I got 70% of the vote in a 4-way race. And they said, well, because he was a TV host and a talk show host. And it did help me following Rush Limbaugh every day. People knew me. Name ID is important. Same thing, I ran for lieutenant governor. Why is he getting in the race? The ag commissioner was in there, the land commissioner was in there, Todd Staples, Jerry Patterson, good people with followings. David Dewhurst was the incumbent. Well, why is Dan getting in that race? I had a right to run, and we won easily. So I respect anyone to run. And at the end, and what people, and I said it yesterday on the stage, when it's over, It's over. You put it in the rearview mirror. It's time to move on and unite in November. Look, we're going to win Texas for Trump by a large margin, but Ted Cruz has a tough race on his hands. So if we have people who stay home because their primary opponent didn't win or their primary candidate didn't win, well, that hurts Ted Cruz down the line. So fight like heck and then move forward. The one thing that I don't like to hear, well, the swamp, I mean, these are cheap lines. The swamp in Austin. The swamp in Austin are the Democrats who run Austin and Travis County. They're not the Republican legislature, and that does bother me a little bit. The Senate has, I mean, look, Texas has passed constitutional carry, open carry, campus carry. There's not a bill the NRA has asked us to pass that we haven't. We've passed the heartbeat bill. We passed the ultrasound bill. And now Roe v. Wade's been overturned. No one passes more pro-life bills than we have. We've reduced property taxes, school taxes by 40% for every homeowner who homesteads, $100,000 homestead exemption. I can go down the list. There's no swamp in the Republican Party. Well, there's a little bit of swampiness in the House, okay? But we're going to clean up that swamp.
Yeah. Last question, because I know you're gracious with your time. I want you to just tell us about when you get to the Senate, you see this problem that Democrats are basically needed to pass any policy. And you decide to stand up against the blocker rule, which you already talked about, but there really weren't a lot of people standing with you. So I want you to kind of talk about your mentality going into a fight at the time that you knew in the short term you were not going to win. Why did you pick the fight? And then how did you see that progress?
First of all, if you believe in something, you don't ever quit, okay? You just keep going. It took me 6 years to pass the sonogram bill. 6 years, 3 sessions, and that bill, since we passed it in 11, has saved 250,000 babies. So you just keep at it. You stay in the fight. So when I was elected to the Senate as a new senator, and I'd already known about this 21 vote rule, so in the Senate, the senators vote on the rules. It's just the same way in the House. So I stood up my first day when the rules were made in 2015 when we were all sworn in, and I said, we need to change the blocker bill because there are 21 votes. We only have 20 senators. The Democrats are in control. And I lost in the meeting 29-2. 29-2. And I was told by the dean of the Senate who was running the meeting, now, Senator Patrick, I know you're new. This is your first day. Once we vote on the rules, we don't go out on the floor and discuss them. We don't go out on the floor and amend them. And I said, well, who said? I mean, who said that? I didn't agree to that. The people are campaigned on this. The people expect me to fight. What am I going to do? Throw in the towel on day one? So I went out on the floor. I had a Republican and a Democrat walk by me on the floor at my desk and say, if you bring this up, you'll never pass a bill this session. Okay. I wasn't going to pass many as a freshman anyway. Big deal. I believe in this. So I went for the vote, and I lost 30-1. Even the one that was with me in the back of the House voted against me. Over time, each session, because it takes 16 to change the rules. Okay, 16 out of 31. By my fourth session, I was up to 10 votes. I needed 6 more, and I ran for lieutenant governor. 8 new senators came in. They all campaigned on the same thing, and some of those people who were against it the last time I was a senator, now that I was lieutenant governor, they joined us, and we changed it. And then we changed it to 19. We lost 1 seat, went to 18 for one session. We came down to 18. And the Democrats said, wait a minute, this is a pure political play. You're now making it 18 because you only have 18? I said, yes, because if we leave it at 19, you'll block every conservative bill. So the reason we're able to pass out in droves by April usually, we're usually done by mid-April, all the conservative bills is because they can't stop us. And that's what the House, just in the House, I don't care who they pick as the new speaker. I don't think Dade's going to win his election Tuesday, but if he does, I don't think he'll be speaker. But whoever the new speaker is, you can't have Democrat chairs in powerful position. You can't have any Democrat chairs, and you got to change the rules over there. And the House members need to step up. And if there's a play, remember, people don't know this. When Joe Strauss became speaker, he became speaker with 64 Democrats and 12 Republicans. It was a coup d'etat. And that hasn't. So now what happens, so the people understand, they will go to the meeting, vote for the speaker, and there'll be, let's say, some guy's got 45 Republican votes. So he doesn't have 76. He needs 76 out of 150. He's got 45. So he goes out and gets himself, 26, whatever the math is, 21 votes, 31 votes, whatever the math is, 31 to be speaker. So he gets 31 Democrats And to get their votes, he's got to promise them to kill bad Republican bills, pass bad Democrat bills, and let them be chairs. And that's what's been happening, and that has to stop. There's a rule in the Republican caucus in the House that only Republicans should pick the Speaker. And so it should be like picking the Pope. When the Cardinals get in, no matter how long they're there, before we see the smoke clear, the House needs to stay in, the Republicans next session, and they need to vote and vote and vote till one man or woman gets 76 Republicans. Then they don't owe anything to the Democrats. And that's how it should be done. And that's the right thing. And if they don't do it, I'm going to stay on their rear end, because they're stopping the Senate great conservative bills from getting to the governor's desk. And that's why I'm in this race. I mean, that's why I've come in against the Speaker.
Dan, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Luke.
I know we're on a time limit, but thank you for giving us time. Thank you for the work you're doing for Texas. Thank you for taking the legislative priorities and the platform that this convention does seriously, because I think the Senate has always reflected that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Luke. Appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Do you want to get your news from people who share your values? Texas Scorecard. Real news for real Texans.